Skull Buffs, baby.
We sit before you after watching two of the worst college football games I think we've ever seen in our journalism careers, as the Colorado Buffaloes got over 100 points put up on their heads by Utah and Arizona. They are lost with no direction, but regardless, they still got to get shipped off to Morgantown to play West Virginia. You are watching SBS Football Live. I'm Liam Howard alongside Leo Rivera, Shane Holcomb, and Harrison Simeon. Gentlemen, we're just going to get right into the bad, the ugly, and the worse. Starting off with what disappointed you about Arizona. Try and keep this maybe under a half an hour if you could.
Well, Liam, thanks for that transition. First of all, for me, guys, it's the penalties in the first half, right? Colorado accumulated 9 flags for 65 yards in just 30 minutes of football, guys. You want to hear something crazy? That was more than they gave up in a whole game all season before Saturday. Mind you, these mistakes weren't just, every down, holding penalties or whatnot, but they were in costly, critical moments, right? A 75-yard touchdown catch from Sincere Brown taken off the board, and also roughing the passer call on Arden Walker, which took away an interception for the Buffs. It just, all these calls would have changed momentum, and they just didn't have discipline in this one. And that was just really, it took them out of the game. They shot themselves in the foot, Harrison.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that for anyone who was at home watching this game, the commentators were getting agitated about how long they were having to sit there and watch the football game because it was being extended by so many penalties. I'll toss it to you now, Harrison, but I wanted to throw that in there. It was rough.
Yeah, it was very rough. I think it was just a sloppy game all around, but I think what led to that was the Buffs' lack of urgency. From the very first couple of plays, Arizona scores pretty much immediately again, just like we saw in Utah, and you could feel the energy just get sucked out of Folsom Field once again. And from there was just kind of the offense doing their same old tricks, same old kind of concepts. And when Caden Salter was on the field, it was, there were a couple deep shots here and there, but for the most part, it was kind of operating as if business was usual, and not that they had just lost 50 to forever, or 50 to nothing, and then coming back and having to deal with the same sort of start. There was nothing out of the gate, and that led to it becoming almost garbage time before half.
Yeah, and I think that with Colorado needing to win a lot of these last games, now they got to win out if they're going to make that bowl game. But this is that's something that I think a lot of fans would hope to see, is some urgency in that situation when faced with do or die to get to a bowl game. But Colorado has shown none of that so far. Leo, where have you seen that?
You got to talk about tackling, right? For a sport that's called tackle football, the Buffaloes did a pitiful job of that last Saturday, and it came with that opening drive. The big play of Arizona that kind of broke the game was 5 broken tackles. Are you kidding me on that first touchdown? That's completely unacceptable, Liam Howard, and it starts off defensively. When you talk about setting the tone, I said last week on the show this team needs to be physical. Someone's got to find a way to thump. No one was thumping. Again, it's only Taufik Bayard in the backfield, and he was ejected even later on in the game, so that didn't even help them. And they're going to be without him for the first half at West Virginia. That was, unfortunate as well, and just the tackling as a whole was bad.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what was it, John? I believe John Slaughter missing missing an angle, and then at the same time taking out his teammate who had the only other possible angle to stop an Arizona touchdown. One of the worst plays I think I've ever seen in my life in a summary of what that game was. I'm going to look on the offensive side. I was originally just going to talk about Caden Salter, but I've got to throw Ryan Staub in there as well. Awful interception. Did not complete a pass, did Ryan Staub. Caden Salter, 49 yards, 11 of 15 for 49 yards, a touchdown, and a bad interception. These are the two most experienced guys this team has. Yeah, and a fumble. It's absurd. And these are the most experienced guys on this team, And they're supposed to lead. These guys are coming in to be leaders. They're coming in to be the security. Even if they weren't going to shine or be flashy, they were going to be the security, the stability for this offense. They have proven the lights are too bright. I think that both of their seasons are done, and this game was all that you needed to see if you were a CU fan. Is there any silver linings, Shane, that you think you could take away from this game?
Well, it's tough to pick anything, right? But I know people sometimes say when you're picking the punter as the best person at that game, it's never a good thing. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. But what I am saying is Damon Greaves has bounced back from a few bad performances, right? He averaged 47 yards per kick on 6 attempts. Again, Deion Sanders called for him to be better after a couple of subpar outings, especially in the game against TCU. And he was one of the bright spots when it comes to the fundamentals department, but also trying to flip the field in that game. Talk about the lights being too bright for that team. Hopefully they won't have a problem with that because they're playing at, noon on Saturday. So the lights won't be on, Liam. But if they are on, Damon Greaves can hopefully come through again.
And you don't usually want to see 6 punts, but he did well on those 6 punts. So that is a positive that at least some fans can take away in the special teams department. Harrison, what direction are you going?
I'm going towards the biggest storyline coming out of this game is that Julian Lewis makes his long-awaited, I guess not debut since he's played before, but the first extended stretch we've seen of him as a Colorado Buffalo, and he looked okay. I mean, he obviously was going against some backups, and the game was long over by the time he was in, but for a freshman getting his first little stint, I would say the right decision is to keep going forward with him. And Deion Sanders confirmed today that he will get the start against West Virginia, and just kind of that turning of the page towards Julian Lewis can at least be something with some upside versus where at this point we kind of know what we would get from Caden Salter.
And you'll see it on Tailgate Takeover later. That is something that the fans have longed for to this point in the season. They've wanted to see Julian Lewis take the field. He's finally out there, and this is his team now. Leo, what do you think?
I think building off of what you said, Harrison, it's promise for the future, right? It's kind of like this rebuild is fully underway. You had the changing of the guard between Caden Salter and Shador Sanders, which is now getting passed over to Julian Lewis. Now it's going to be his team for however long he can command it, right, moving forward, or if he transfers. But theoretically, you're hoping that he stays. He's going to be rebuilding with this program in the offseason. You're going to be able to go put some pieces around him. You're still going to have Jordan Seaton, who is one of the best tackles in college football still. And I think those are some anchor points you're going to have to look forward to the future. Hopefully a guy like Michael Welch down Hayden can still return for next season. The offensive line is going to be a big question mark because they got a lot of old guys there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay on the offensive side and go with Amarian Miller. This is a guy who was a big part of Julian Lewis's success in that game. They established a good connection, connected on that deep ball, and that was a great looking play to see from both of them. I think Amarian Miller has shown that he is a guy who can step up as the future of this offense. This is a guy who can, I think, emerge as a high-end wide receiver to go to the NFL as a prospect. We've seen some obviously injury concerns, and then of course the off-field stuff with having to get benched because he's late getting back from the bye week. That's not stuff you want to see from a guy like that who has all that talent. But I think the fact that we've seen that it's there is excellent, and I think overall great game from him. And Colorado is glad to see that out of him. But let's just get plain and simple with it. 2 weeks of 50 points being dropped on the Colorado Buffaloes. What has happened to this team, Shane?
What's happened to this team is that there's absolutely no chemistry or cohesion, right, between coordinators and coaches and players, right? Deion Sanders has mentioned in his press conference that it's more than just coaching these players, right? It's his job to coach these coordinators and set them up to succeed. And so far, these past few weeks, plain and simple, he hasn't done that, right? There's been a lot of people calling for play caller Pat Shurmur's head. We'll see how that pans out in the next few weeks. But a game like the one that they played against Utah, I'll highlight that because it's a game that can set back a program years. And I know people might be like, it's a little bit overreactionary. In my opinion, though, guys, they were embarrassed on national television when there was not a single other sport entity going on that evening, right? That's hard to sell that recruiting product, right? And the future looks bleak, in my opinion, even though, Leo, you were talking about a rebuild. Again, I don't want to go overboard here, but when you get embarrassed like that on national television, it's hard to come back from that.
Well, and the thing you got to think about as well is they brought in a very solid freshman class that have already made an impact so far this season. And you got to think about those guys hitting the portal. Are they going to stick around for a product like that? Harrison, do you have a similar sort of notion, or are you going a different direction?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I think coaching is the big part because it's clear that this team does not have the horses to really be a Big 12 contender, to be up there in the upper echelon. But that's when this coaching staff that has over 150 years of NFL experience needs to come to the table and work something out and really get to know this team and find a sense of cohesiveness. We talked all throughout the earlier part of the season about how the offense did not have an identity. And those talks have subsided because the whole team doesn't have an identity. It's just Coach Prime right now. And I think all these issues with coaching, the vibe that I put down, the vibes are just completely shot. And that comes back to the coaching and comes back to Deion Sanders. And what we need to see from him is just a better overall pulse that he can have on this team to make moves and make mid-season adjustments, mid-game adjustments. And I've been talking since week 1 about his mismanagement of timeouts. And then in the Arizona game, he just calls all 3 of them when they're down by 35 for no reason. I mean, that doesn't matter really because the game was going to be a loss either way. But coaching just has been all over the place this season. And with a team with, some potential there that coaching would need to squeeze out of it, it just needs to be better.
And maybe he was burning those timeouts just so that the people couldn't ask him after the game why he kept them in his pocket. But overall, just the worst things to see if you're a Colorado fan. This team is out of control. What do they need to do to center back in?
Yeah, I think first and foremost it starts with the fundamentals, right? What are you doing with your gap integrity? If you're talking about the offensive line, what is your assignment? How are you identifying the front? How are you getting to your spots? Which direction are you stepping? Are you sliding the correct way? Are your eyes to your gap? There are so many things that you have to think about that you shouldn't be having to think about in a game, right? This should be muscle memory that you've practiced all summer that you're not even having to think about it. You got to just read and react, right? And that's the difference in a game of football where you're talking about the average play being 4 seconds long. A tenth of a second, a fraction of these seconds makes a big difference. And when you talk about, especially on the defensive side for Colorado, they're often in the right positions. They're just getting outflanked. They're not tackling. They're not rappelling up. They're not running through people. They're not driving and finishing. All the things you talk about in a good football team is lacking, and it's fundamentals. It's the plays coming in. It's the communication. It's the clock management, Harrison, that you talked about. Little things like that build up over and over and over, and they can't really be fixed with one, Sharpie that's going to come and white out all their mistakes. It's going to be something that they have to look back in and plan out through the offseason because this starts back in, April.
I am going to keep it with the fundamentals idea. I got 2 words to describe what has happened to this team. Coordinators and character. Coordinators look foolish. They have made the team look foolish. The play calling has looked foolish. There's no real sugarcoating it at this point in the season. This has been a pitiful display on both sides of the ball, and these last 2 games have been the exact result of that. And then the character. You got to look at the character of the players. That stems from coaching, obviously. But my goodness, they want to put the jersey on, but they don't want to do the work that comes with the jersey. And that has been seen every single game. Like you said, no gap integrity, no fundamentals, no willingness to win. And that could also be a testament to the coaching staff sort of losing the locker room. But my goodness, you got to have players who want to win football games.
Yeah, I'm trying not to pound the desk here. I am just frustrated overall. This is a lost season, and it comes back to what we saw from coaching, from, not just the players. I mean, obviously the easy scapegoat is to look at Salter as a quarterback who hasn't lived up to expectations. But at the same time, the play calling is dealing with some of the, the coaching in terms of wide receivers getting open, wide receivers blocking. It's those fundamentals, like you said. It's a combination of everything.
So I was Liam. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I asked him a question for an article about what are your thoughts about enthusiasm on this team right now. And his quote, word for word, about this offense was, "You would think that the forward pass wasn't invented." I think that says it all about this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they go to Morgantown to face a team that has plenty of offensive questions of their own. West Virginia. That's going to be a early kickoff this week for Colorado. That changes up the pace a little bit, and we'll talk about that later. But looking at West Virginia as a team, they just beat the number 22 team in the country in Houston, a team that we talked about in pretty high regard last week on this show. Is this West Virginia team more legit than we potentially thought they were, or was that just a flash in the pan, Shane?
Well, what they do have, despite their 1-5 conference record, Liam, is something that you said you want out of this Buffaloes team, which is character, right? They've shown they can have an identity and a culture these past few weeks under Rich Rodriguez, who's obviously in his second tenure there, but it's been behind Scotty Fox Jr. This is a freshman quarterback who seems to have lit a fire under this offense. Again, it's been what CU has failed to do when it comes to responding to adversity, fighting regardless of what, being literally witness in conference play. They went on the road, like you said, against Houston, and the score was 45-35, guys, but that was pretty much more than a two-possession game the whole way through. They were dominating that game. I think that kind of scoreline gives a little bit more of a way to West Virginia than more respect than it should. And it's going to be a tough environment to go into, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harrison, do you have any thoughts on West Virginia in that game?
Yeah, I don't think that it's a true indication. I think it's maybe more of Houston letting their guard down. They're red hot. They're riding high. And then they get a home game against West Virginia. It kind of works as a trap game because they have some, tougher games surrounding it. I don't think they're legit necessarily, but something you said, 3 words that really stood out from what you said: fighting through adversity. This team is well motivated, and something you haven't seen from the Buffs really much at all since there were certain games where the Buffs had Shedeur Sanders to kind of calm things down. The Buffs do not fight through adversity at all. Once they go down, it only snowballs.
Yeah, and I think that's something that can be said. I think that's something that can be said about a team when you have not exactly the most talent in the world, but you're able to pull out a game every once in a while because of that character. And a lot of the time, that character can win you more games than skill ever can, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll add one really quick thing because there's those losses in the beginning. I would say they showed some fight. There were some very close games against good teams. Georgia Tech proving to be a good loss in a way. BYU, another amazing loss. Top 10 team that you're right there with. But those kind of losses can grind down a team. And when things kind of get out of hand by Utah, you can see a team quit. And while Coach Prime isn't going to say it because that's a reflection on him, this team has quit.
Leo, what does that Houston game say about West Virginia?
I think it was more of Houston overlooking West Virginia and not in terms of them being more, dominant as a team as a whole. Obviously, they win the football game, but you do got to give credit because this is a team that rose to the occasion, right? They didn't back down from the challenge. They were able to elevate your play. And when you talk about teams like that, that is a shine of, you have good leadership and you have character in that locker room and guys who buy into the program. Coach Rodriguez has commanded the respect of not only his players in the locker room, but even guys like Deion Sanders. Talked about him at the press conference. A lot of respect and admiration for what he's been able to do with his program. Obviously coming back now, they're still trying to rebuild and find the foundation of what they want to do moving forward. But I think at home, this is going to be a dangerous team and one Colorado definitely can't overlook.
And going back to what you guys said about character, this is a team that just, unlike Colorado, looks like they care about winning. They care about winning football games, and they show that in the way that they play. I think that this Houston game was a great example. Houston, obviously, they had a lot going on that week with, the passing of one of their coaches earlier in the week, Kurt Hester, who meant a lot to the players.
Yeah, rest in
lost
peace.
his battle to cancer, unfortunately. So a very tragic story there, but there's still a lot to be said about this West Virginia team. Don't let that discredit what West Virginia did, and that's a game that looked like a gimme. Essentially, the last time we were on this show, and I even joked about that game. I was debating putting that game in our pick'ems.
All of us picked Houston.
Exactly.
Every
no one
person
has ever
in Skill
picked
Bus
West
Sports.
Virginia on this show as a fun fact. But West Virginia came out and proved it against Houston. How much will a road atmosphere like Morgantown affect a game where the Colorado Buffaloes are coming in, especially Spider-Man after those 2 losses?
Well, I think at this point, guys, after the performances on the road so far this season, any road environment is going to startle this Buffaloes team. You just got to look at the facts, right? 0-3 on the road this season, but the worst number is outscored 48 to 124. And again, I know a lot of that number has been inflated by the Utah game, but I digress, right? I mean, the road games, including the one at Houston, which, by the way, Tedesco Stadium, which I still can't pronunciate all these weeks later.
TDECU?
Yeah, but we called it Tedesco Tussle or whatever that a couple weeks ago. That was a library, and Colorado really struggled in that game. And this atmosphere is going to be a lot more noisy than Houston was. Again, Colorado, they say that they're excited for this 10 a.m. kickoff. Deion Sanders said, thank goodness, when I asked him about it in the press conference this week, because they practice in the morning. It's been a point of contention you talked about, Leo. But there could be no fans in the crowd. Any road environment seems to be, just putting this team in a really bad place right now.
And as you see on the graphic there, this team averaging over 87% capacity at their stadium, much more than that Houston game that you mentioned. Harrison, how do you think that's going to play a role?
Well, Morgantown, really fun road environment. It looks. I'm excited for everybody going from SBS to see that stadium and see the fans there. Really proud program that's been waiting for a winner for a long time. Once again, but come on, guys. This team has lost, whether it's at home. They just lost 52-17 in comfy Folsom Field. Not a super late kickoff. Conditions pretty ideal for at least a competitive game.
Great football
and
weather.
It fell off the rails. This team is lost whether they're at home, whether they're playing on freaking Mars. You saw last year where in 2024 they went to UCF, they had to cross the country, they had some of these similar issues, that there was crappy weather in Orlando, and they came out and got it done because that was a well put together team that this team just isn't anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And they obviously lost those key players, but lots of changes with the coaching staff and really just the mentality of this team has shifted.
Mentality is the
overall.
big part.
Leo, what do you think?
I mean, you can't overlook the fact that you're going to have a true freshman making his first ever start on the road, Liam. Those are less than ideal conditions, especially when you talk about how beat up this football team has been, particularly in the trenches, right? Xavier Hill didn't play last week. That offensive line definitely has not looked like the offensive line we saw in the first 6 weeks of the season. But they're going to have to regroup and rebuild and plug and play and figure out the five they're going to be able to go up there because you could not allow your true freshman quarterback to get rattled. If West Virginia is able to put pressure on him, if he's not comfortable in that pocket, it could be another long night for Colorado.
Well, and that's absolutely the case with Morgantown. They love their football there, and they smell blood in the water. They're going to show up to these games, and I think that they do right now with the Buffaloes. Yes. This is a wounded Buffalo limping into Morgantown right now that West Virginia is looking to watch fall. So they're going to pack the house without a doubt. One more look at the West Virginia game. We're going to look at the 10 a.m. kickoff, which we've mentioned a few times. Is that going to play to CU's benefit? I know you mentioned that Dion thinks it will. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, again, if his words were to go by, maybe, right? I want to believe him that maybe it will make a difference in the fact that they have some more routine and getting up early and playing the game of football when it comes to practice. But interesting here, guys, that not just, on the road for them, but in total, this is the first, 10 a.m. body clock game they've played all season long. It's the first they've played on the road since the 2023 TCU opening game in Deion Sanders' era. So we'll see how they respond to it. Again, Harrison mentioned traveling across the country. Does that play a factor? Again, though, I really don't know if much. This game could kick off at 6 a.m., kick off at 10:30 p.m. Doesn't really make much of a difference. I don't really know.
Morgantown known for being difficult to travel to. Harrison?
Yeah, it couldn't hurt. I would say, it's better than the late kickoffs, which seem to be this team's Achilles heel that they had to completely wrap around their practice schedule for and make a bunch of changes and adjustments for that, which worked for 1 week, and then, we've seen what's happened since then. I think overall, the time, the setting, it doesn't really matter at this point if the team doesn't show up and play, so I don't think they should be that worried about it. There will be, the intrinsic factors of having to travel, long flight, anything like that. And for a team that's, kind of, mentally shot as is, a trip across the country could be really good or really bad. Who knows? Maybe they have some bonding on the flight. I don't know. That's my only hope. But the time doesn't matter a ton to me. But the play once that game starts, to start the game does.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that routine immediately reflects itself. Leo, do you think that is going to have any effect on the game?
I think it definitely does, Liam Howard, especially when you mentioned, like you said, Shane, this being the first one of the season. It could have a negative effect. We haven't even really talked about it in that aspect. Maybe Colorado's still going to be asleep. Who knows? But I think it definitely will. It's going to be interesting. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, if you look at it from a fundamentals perspective, like we've been talking about, it doesn't matter what time kickoff is. It doesn't matter if you're on Mars, Harrison Simeon, if you're at Folsom Field, if you are in the middle of London, if you are in the middle of nowhere of Antarctica on a frozen tundra football field. It doesn't matter. When you strap up that helmet and you have the Colorado Buffalo logo on the side of your head, it doesn't matter. Teams see that and they're coming to fight, and you better represent and fight for that logo and fight for your school and have some dang pride.
Be a bad time for some star receivers to sleep through their alarm clocks again. Everyone's got to show up for this game, and like you said, cannot still be asleep. when showing up. I'll say overall that I think it is going to have an impact. I mean, if you just look at straight statistics, they do actually play better in the daylight. Why they work that way, I don't know. I've not usually seen that. But
well, the last 10 a.m. game technically was the Black Friday Oklahoma State game where they won, I think it was 60 or 52-0, something like that.
Travis Hunter State.
Obviously, a much different team, but you're correct.
Yeah, they've overall, and the Iowa State game, it was daytime the entire from kickoff to the final whistle. Whether that actually has an impact or that's just CU grabbing at straws to try and make this look like it has any hope, we will not be sure until Saturday. But we're going to look a little bit outside the box now. We're going to go to the Big 12 as a whole. We're going to look around the Big 12 and start off with the two teams that kicked off our season. Kansas State and Iowa State kicked it off in Dublin. We talked about this at one point on the show. Will the Dublin curse come to get Iowa State? It got Kansas State early. Now it's getting Iowa State. Shane, which of these teams has been more disappointing to you?
Well, to the delight of your ears, Liam Howard, in my opinion, it's got to be Iowa State now. And I would have asked me this question 3 or 4 weeks ago, I probably would have said Kansas State, right? But the fact of the matter is the Cyclones were once ranked as high as 12th. They came to Folsom Field a couple weeks ago, and they lost to this Colorado team that clearly isn't very good at football. But since then, again, more losses, including a banged-up ASU team at home, right? So Kansas State, meanwhile, on the other hand of things, is winning games that they weren't really expecting to win, especially after a bad start of the season. The TCU win really impressed me. But, again, both of these teams, it kind of reminds me of, that song by Khalid called Coaster, right? They're just kind of riding on that right now. But Iowa State, Kansas State, they're going 2 different directions. But, again, Iowa State, what happened to them? This team looks broken.
Iowa State is on a rocky wooden roller coaster, if they are on one right now. 4 straight losses for that team, Harrison.
I'll throw you one. How about the Tower of Terror? This team is in a free fall right now. 4 straight losses. I think, Rocco Becht, while he hasn't necessarily been the entire reason, I think it's been more of a defensive injuries kind of catching up to them. And just, they've played some tough teams. But if we look at where Colorado is now, I mean, their first loss of this losing, or actually part of the losing streak, was to CU. And, I think that may have gotten their heads a little bit. And then, seeing CU continue to lose, maybe struggle with them. But Iowa State, most certainly more disappointing than K-State. They've kind of leveled out, but Iowa State just collapsing right now.
Yeah, well, and they had actually lost to Cincinnati before that. But that's a good team. Yeah. That's a good team right there. Colorado, we now know otherwise. Leo, what do you think?
I'm going to go on the flip side here, and I'm going to say it is Kansas State, Liam Howard, because I saw a guy sit beside me and come up here and say that was going to be the conference winner at the start of the season. And not only that, when you talk about their quarterback, this was a guy who was projected to possibly be a Heisman finalist, right? And you talk about those expectations from a whole preseason standpoint. They have not lived up to that. And they only have 4 wins, all right? I mean, this Iowa State Cyclones team has been beat up. The injuries have taken a toll on them. And I think that's definitely a contribution to the way their schedule is kind of free-fall. And as a whole, I still do like the Cyclones team a little bit more. And I think just when you talk about the preseason expectations of what these teams are supposed to be able to come in and do, I was a little upset with the Kansas State.
I think, like you mentioned, even though they were my conference champion picks, I'm going to go ahead and take Iowa State as the more disappointing of the two. I think when you're looking at more disappointing, you got to kind of look from the perspective of the fans. At least Kansas State killed their fans' hopes early. They got that out of the way. They got their job taken care of. Iowa State, like you mentioned, they get high up in the AP poll. They're looking like this team could make the college football playoff, and they lose 4 straight games. And suddenly, any hope that your team has of making the college football playoff or even the Big 12 championship is gone like that. That is the most disappointing feeling as a fan. So I got to say, overall, Iowa State has really been a bummer. But moving on after that, we're going to look at Utah, who is the opposite direction of those two teams. They are trending up. They won. They blew out Colorado, and then they turned around and blew out that good team I just mentioned, Cincinnati, in back-to-back weeks. Do they have the path now to the Big 12 championship? Shane?
So while they have been playing incredible football, Liam, there's a slight problem here, right? You look at that stand-ins column in the Big 12, and they have 2 conference losses. Okay, let's not forget that. They also, mind you, still have to go to Baylor, which I know people aren't, singing the horn about that team anymore, but that's no pushover of a game. They got to go to Kansas and play your guy, Jalen Daniels. We mentioned him sometime during this show. And I think I could see Utah losing one of those games. It's hard when you don't have control of your own destiny. I will say I was very impressed with that win over a Cincinnati team that we've talked a lot of good things about on this show this season. But in my opinion, guys, 2 conference losses, especially when you consider that BYU has 0. Texas Tech, BYU this weekend. Utah will be rooting for BYU to lose that game, in my opinion. But listen, they still have a long way to go. It's always hard when you don't have control of your own destiny.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have college game day there now. There's really energy there, but like you mentioned, they're playing from behind. Harrison, do you think they're going to overcome that?
Look, I'm proud of my Utes. They were my Big 12 title pick. I have very much impressed. Not really the CU game in hindsight. Now that we've seen CU kind of be demoralized. But the Cincinnati game, they boat raced them. And Cincinnati was, again, riding high. Another team that had really been outperforming, overachieving their expectations, looking as possibly this year's Arizona State maybe. But then Utah just took them to school and, took that home crowd and just ran away with a win. At the same time, though, you mentioned those 2 conference losses that are going to limit their ability to be in the Big 12 championship, if not the outright regular season winner. One of those losses is to BYU, so the tiebreaker also a factor. While I'm proud of them, I don't see them winning the conference. I see them getting very, very close, though.
Yeah, that BYU loss obviously huge, not only just from the standings standpoint, but also just that's a rivalry game there. That's one that Utah wants to win every single year. So huge loss on their schedule there. Leo, do you think they can overcome it?
I think it definitely is a possibility, Liam Howard, and I kind of look at it this way. It's hard to beat a team twice, right? And this Utah team is peaking at the right time, all right? In football, you want to kind of ride a steady trend and move up. You want to be playing your best football right as you're getting towards the back end of the season, towards conference play, and potentially a Big 12 championship. Now, like you guys mentioned, they're going to need some help along the way, but this week, Texas Tech is playing BYU. That's going to be a huge one because it could potentially be those 3 teams knotted up at the top if once all is said and done. So don't count out Utah. I think they're playing their best football at the right time, but it's going to be extremely exciting to see.
Mind you, Liam, too, the new college football playoff rankings, the first ones of the seasons, were released today. And I think they might have been watching the SBS show from last week because we were talking about the disrespect the rankings were shown to the Big 12. That's a number 7 ranked BYU team, mind you, and Texas Tech. Key point here, guys, both of those teams are ahead of a 1-loss ranked Oregon team who has a lot of hype around them.
Yeah, that's huge for the Big 12 conference as a whole, as well as those teams. BYU is all but in right now. They have essentially clinched that spot. While not mathematically, they are all but into that conference championship game. You can essentially write that spot off for Utah. And then they've got Houston, Cincinnati, Texas Tech still in front of them in the standings as well. That is a tough mountain to climb. So I like where this team is going. I like their direction. They're playing good football, but just a little too late, in my opinion. So we're going to move on to our fun segment of the week. This time, we're going to be talking about some Big 12 players who would be some great two-sport athletes. There has been a rise in just hyper-athleticism in college sports recently. Shane, we'll start with you. Who's a guy that could be another? Who could play another sport if football doesn't go his way?
Well, Liam, I had the pleasure of being on the near sideline for one of the highlights, actually, of Colorado's first half that was eventually taken back from penalty. But Sincere Brown, that guy can run, man. I mean, this guy is insanely fast. His 6'5" frame makes that even more impressive, right? I could picture him 100-meter dash, 200-meter dash. He's the guy that, honestly reminds me a little bit of Noah Lyles when it comes to his running style because you think you put him in the basket, but here he comes, that last 10, 15 meters. Sincere Brown's in front of everyone else. And he had an incredible 75-yard touchdown that was taken back in that first half that I mentioned earlier. This guy would be incredible at track. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe if Colorado's team doesn't work out for him, Olympic athletes, they could always use someone like Sincere.
A 4.41 40-yard dash the last time he had it timed. Might be a little quicker than that now, though, if you were to ask me. Harrison, who are you going with? I think you've got probably my favorite.
Yeah, I'm going with someone from my favorite team, Utah. I'm going with the semi-truck, Semi Taulanga, defensive tackle from Utah. And I'm going with him as a basketball player. I know that sounds kind of nuts because this is a semi-truck, a big guy, a defensive tackle, but Utah has put him out on the offense and given him the ball and allowed him to run. I know that's been trending up like Caden Proctor. That's not Big 12, but with Alabama, it looked like CU tried to do that with Seton a little bit last week.
That's a big guy.
Look at
that photo.
Utah, D tackle, fullback, tight end. I could have put offensive guard on there because they have used him at guard a few times to pull for run blocking. But I mean, we got a guy.
Yeah,
This
a big guy with
Travis
that
Hunter.
footwork. I mean, I put DJ Burns down, but, but yeah, like get him some conditioning. He could get him up and down the court a few times.
Yes.
He could be a force in the paint.
DJ Burns just got signed to a G League contract, I believe.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, there's a pathway.
Anything
there.
is possible.
If the semi truck ever wants to make his way to the league, I think he knows the direction to go. Leo, who are you taking?
You know what? I'm going to stay here in Colorado as well, but I'm going to talk about a guy who unfortunately didn't play this sport in high school, but I think could have been a national champion potentially, and that's Jordan Seaton. Just seeing him in person, his feet work, his poise, his elegancy, the way he could sprint around that football field at so many different angles, his hip mobility, his flexibility, the way he gets down on that stance, all that translates to wrestling. And if you talk about a lot of the great offensive linemen, defense linemen in the NFL who progressed, all have wrestling backgrounds. They were dominant in high school. Some of them even played in college. Unfortunately, Colorado doesn't have a wrestling team. We got to do something about that, Rick George. Donors, people out there listening, get some money
Big
for the
wigs with
wrestling
Dr.
team.
Pepper
Wait,
trucks.
would you go on the
Yes.
team?
Oh, 100%. I would try for the
Absolutely.
team. But Jordan Seaton would be a phenomenal heavyweight representing.
Well, that sounds like the scariest picture I could ever think of, standing across from Jordan Seaton and being told to secure him in. But, I mean, here we are at the end of the day. I'm going to go back to the basketball route. I'm going to talk about a guy who actually was quite the basketball player in high school, Lincoln Cure. Kansas State tight end, averaged 10.6 points per game, but I mean, mostly his defense was incredible. Averaged 1.2 steals per game playing basketball in high school. This dude could have probably gone to college to play basketball if you wanted, but when you're a 5-star tight end recruit going with a commitment to Kansas State, you got to weigh your options here, and I think the football was the right path for him. And hey, 6'5", 230 pounds, that right there sounds like a player that could have some success at least the collegiate level in basketball. Lincoln Cure of Kansas State. There's meant to be a graphic, but it's
all
whatever.
good.
We're going on to the next segment, though. This is another fun one. We're going to go to Tailgate Takeover. It's been a little while since we've had it around, but Tailgate Takeover is back. Arizona was coming to town, and Halloween weekend was afoot. We'll send it out to the Hill. Arizona is coming to town to play the Colorado Buffaloes here at Folsom. We're going to go see how people are getting ready for the game, and if anyone is psyched up despite Colorado getting smacked around handily by Utah last week. It's Halloween weekend. Let's get this underway. So Colorado last week against Utah, 400 rushing yards, over 400 rushing yards allowed to the Utah Utes. Combination of quarterback and running back. They won that game by about 50 points with 0 100-yard receivers. So Colorado now going to face an Arizona team with a mobile quarterback and Ishmael Mahdi, a great running back, who are going to give the Buffs a lot of problems. We're going to see if people think that they can stop that run today. Yeah?
I'm traveling here all the way from Tucson.
Oh my God! So okay, so you're going undercover. So regardless of who wins, you win today.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
All right. Colorado got smacked around by Utah last week. Couldn't stop the run. Do we think that Colorado is going to stop the run this week? Nah.
See, like Boulder just took a fat L to Utah. They're not gonna come back. They got no momentum right now.
No momentum?
It's a comeback week, though. It's
Like
a comeback.
it's a comeback week.
No, we f***ing suck at football. We're losing by like
I will
6-0
say, coming from an
this
Arizona fan, we've had 3 tough losses back to back to back. Like
True.
fourth quarter losses, like bad. Field goal.
We got blown out
So-
by 50 last week.
And
Well, for some reason, both coordinators are still employed. Any thoughts on that? you fan specifically.
Maybe Shador getting his jersey like up in the stands was a good thing. We took it for granted
Hey,
because
man,
now we
wait.
have Caden Salter, 5th year.
Yeah.
I'm a Lions fan. I watched the Lions go 0-16, and this is the worst sports team I've ever
is the
watched
worst
in my
sports team
entire
ever?
life.
So Colorado's playing quite the Quidditch match today. What do we think?
Dilly!
Does Colorado win today?
I don't know. Slytherin's mighty this year.
I heard they got a new beatser. He's a first year, just came in. I think he should be good, but I'm happy with my guy Ron.
Oh, you're happy with the guy, Ron?
He should
Ron is the
keep
star.
it down tonight.
What's Ron's final stat line today?
You know, I think we're going over 14 saves. I think he can do it.
Over 14?
I'd say so.
You think you're taking the over?
14 saves for
I think
Ron.
it ends with a golden snitch catch.
Oh, ends with a golden snitch catch. All right. Well, Colorado got smacked around last week. Does that light a fire under him, or is the momentum gone?
You know, we had some butts of beer. We talked it over, and we're ready.
Oh, all right. Y'all feeling the same way?
Oh, yeah.
Dilly!
Well, hopefully Colorado is better at Quidditch than they are at football, because I feel like that's a pretty low bar to clear. How are we feeling about the game today? Do we think Colorado's winning?
Yeah. We have to be on high hopes.
Okay, that's good. Glad we can keep some high hopes. They got smacked around last week, so
No. We don't
talk about that.
Ohio State was good. Yeah. It was nice win. Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think that Colorado is going to use that game as like a fire under them, or is it going to just kill the momentum?
No, I think that they're gonna use it to like push forward, like build us up. Yeah. Build us up. Yeah.
All right, Coach Prime has been like sort of optimistic under this team, but also sort of pissed off at him at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to fire this team up this week?
No, he got it.
He got it?
We've got the energy. He's got this.
Yeah?
No, we've got it. Ready? Like, like the students are happy Halloween.
Yeah, exactly.
You see the Colorado people around here, like, go Buffs.
Yeah,
like,
go
come
Buffs.
on, exactly. Go Buffs.
Exactly. How are you feeling about Colorado today? Do you think they're winning?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you think that they're winning even after they got smacked around last week?
It was a bad day.
Is it just a bad day? Like a game like that can kind of like kill some momentum. Do you think that that's going to kill the momentum this week, or are they getting fired back up?
I think that they're gonna eat Arizona today.
They're going to eat Arizona? What's the final score then?
100-0.
100-0. All right, you heard it here first. That's a final score prediction, 100-0 on Halloween weekend.
I don't think it's good. Opening statement is it just depends on what Caden Salter shows up today.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's two Caden Salters, and we need the good one to show today.
Absolutely. No bum Caden Salter today. Hope he got left in Salt Lake City. Do you think that they're going to rebound after getting smacked around?
I think they will. Honestly, I think a close game would be good. Where we want the team to be, they kind of need to beat the brakes off Arizona today.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope it's a close game. I hope they can pull it out. We'll see what happens.
They got to win 3 out of 4 if they're making a bowl game. Do you think they're doing that this season?
I think I don't want to say it on the camera, but I think the bowl game it's gone. They're too inconsistent to be like, all right, we're gonna win 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
But I love the Buffs. I'll always root for them, win or lose, bowl game or not. It's all Buffs.
How are we feeling about Colorado today? Are they getting a win?
We're getting a win.
We're getting a win. Yeah?
Of course.
Yeah? What do y'all think?
Nah.
Nah? Oh, man.
I have some confidence.
Yeah, all right. If Juju Lewis comes in, do you think he's having a good game today?
100%.
Yeah?
100%.
I think he's got it. I think he's got it.
All
I
right.
also think Caden Salter's got a chance to prove himself again.
Yeah, do you think that if Salter gets benched, would everyone rather Juju Lewis or Ryan Staub? Juju over Ryan Staub? All right.
The youngin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We're about to lose 50-7.
50 to 7.
That's my.
I mean, that's kind of what it was last week, so that's not like entirely off base.
Getting worse and worse.
Y'all believe in Coach Prime? You believe he's gonna fire this team up?
Last year was awesome, bro. Like we had a great year. Yeah. I mean, Travis isn't here anymore, but Coach Prime definitely got it.
Coach Prime got it.
I hope he was on their ass this week about practicing.
All right, final score predictions. I know you got 50 to 7. What do you think?
50-21.
50-21 Arizona or Buffs?
Arizona.
Oh, all right. That's probably a likely score prediction. All right, y'all take care. We appreciate it. All right. So one thing in question, as we've seen in a few of the interviews today, is the quarterback battle. It's still going on at this point in the season, which is terrible if you're a Colorado Buffaloes fan. But Caden Salter cannot seem to save this job and secure it to save his life. Julian Lewis has not played much at all this season, but a lot of people are getting impatient, wanting Julian Lewis to pull up and win some games for the Buffaloes. Although the youth brings that into question. Ryan Staub has probably been the most consistent guy. He doesn't deliver the most outstanding things all the time, but he has honestly given the Buffaloes the biggest spark that they've seen all season. So that'll certainly be addressed in this game. Regardless of who goes out there, though, the Buffaloes are needing some consistency. Well, what about Coach Prime? Coach Prime's been getting a little bit of slack in the media, a little bit of questioning. Do you believe in Coach Prime? Do you think he's going to have this team ready to go?
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think?
I mean, Coach Prime's the dog. Of course, we put our faith in Coach Prime.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, a Halloween weekend crowd out there. We got the student section going to be fired up. Costumes are out. Seen a good number of them out today. Do you think that they're going to play a big factor in this game?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think.
Free bell.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think so. We're gonna head out. Thank you, sir.
Y'all take care.
Well, we're seniors and we're actually feeling really sad because it's our last one.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, all right. Do you think the Colorado Buffaloes are going to get a win for your last game?
Yes. Yes. Hopefully.
Yes.
Better.
They got smacked around in Utah. Do you think they're coming back more fired up, or is that like momentum's dead?
I think we're coming back.
All right, cool. Yeah, we all enjoy your last game. All right, thank you very much. Well, Santa Claus, how are you preparing for the game today?
I'm cleaning up.
Clean it up?
Yep,
All right.
make sure the campus looks pretty for the game.
Of course, that's what Santa Claus does, man. Do we think that Colorado's winning a game today?
I think we are.
Yeah?
I think
All
it's
right.
about time.
We appreciate it. Well, Santa Claus, we'll let you get back to your work.
All right,
thank you very much, sir. One other thing that Colorado is desperately going to need to address in this game is the coordinators. Coach Prime has been saying that it needs to start at the top with the responsibility of the coaches to get this team to win. But they have not done that so far. Pat Shurmur especially has led a dysfunctional offense, so this is a prove-it game as much for them as it is for any of the players. Do you think Colorado's going to win today?
No. Based on last week. No.
Last week I was in Utah for that game.
You were.
And it was
I'm
brutal.
so sorry.
It was
That
brutal,
sucks.
but
We have learned anything. We have learned that we need a stronger O-line.
Yep.
And to just do their f***ing jobs. How
Yeah.
much are they getting paid?
I got
be doing
more
this
money than I'll
in
ever
their
see in my
NIL
life.
deals? That's what I'm
Seriously.
saying. Why can't we put some actual good players on our O-line to protect our quarterback? Put Ralphie on the O-line. Great point. Put me in, coach.
Yeah. All right, folks. The sun is getting low. It is about time for kickoff here in Boulder. They are set to face the Arizona Wildcats in just a few moments. A big game for the Buffaloes, but we will send it back to the studio. You've been watching SBS Football Live and Tailgate Takeover. It's been
All right, so tailgate takeover in the books, and now we move on to the final segment, the pick'ems around the Big 12. We're going to start off with Houston taking on UCF. Houston, a few questions now after their loss. Who do you got, Shane?
Well, so many questions that literally this game could go any which way. I mean, these two teams, I think it would be a little disrespectful to say that they're comparable because Houston has had a really good season. Talent-wise, though, I think it's closer than people expect, right? And you talked about all these questions around this game. Ask Siri for all I care for who's going to win this game. Again, Houston's been a great story. They did crumble, though, against West Virginia. It wasn't a great look last weekend. I could see that being a letdown spot. They got to go to Orlando. It's a bit of a travel. And the UCF defense, I know they've had a struggling year when it comes to wins and losses. It's good enough to keep them in this one. Scott Frost's team has a lot to play for still. They're ineligible. They are eligible to get to a bowl game. They're going to have some urgency. I actually like UCF to win this game and set more, despair to Houston's past couple weeks.
Yeah, UCF, a huge win that would be for them. Harrison, who are you taking?
I thought I was the UCF defender on this show. Shane, that was a very well put. Scott Frost, pretty good team, at home, trying to bounce back. Only scored 3 points last week against Baylor, and I think that's going to be the difference. Houston, off a loss. I'm taking the Cougars there, responding well to the loss against West Virginia. They're going to rebound and take down the Knights.
Yeah, Willie Fritz ain't playing no jokes, right? They got smacked up last weekend, and I think they recognize that. This team's going to be playing peed off, and I think they're going to come out and unfortunately put a whooping on the UCF Knights.
As I mentioned earlier, rough week for them last week, losing their coach. And I think that did play a huge role in that loss as well. I think that's something that you can't overlook at all. That's a huge loss to this team. A lot of the players were very, very close to him. Props to them for, of course, playing that game out. Great job for them going out there and keeping it a close game. I'm going to take Houston to rebound and take down UCF this week. Next, we move on to an incredible matchup. This is Big 12 title and college football playoff implications.
Huge one.
BYU and Texas Tech. What do you got, Shane?
Well, listen, I've said for this whole season that Texas Tech has the most talented roster in the conference, right? The Red Raiders, they're at home. College game day is coming to Lubbock. It's an amazing atmosphere. But I'm tired of doubting this BYU team, guys. And listen to me here, because I've picked against them, I think, every time I've been on the show, and they're undefeated for a reason. You want to hear a stat that you probably won't believe? Texas Tech has lost 16 straight games against top 10 opponents. BYU is number 7 ranked in the country. I think they continue their undefeated season, make a statement to the rest of not just the Big 12, but the college football landscape that they're a contender to take seriously when it comes playoff time. I like BYU to get this one done.
What a legit win on the record that would be for BYU.
People all talk about they haven't played anyone, their resume is bad.
Can't argue about it anymore after that.
No, I respect BYU, and this has the makings of a game of the year type level thing for the conference. And we said that about Texas Tech and Utah, and they took that big opportunity, came out and surged. So I think they're going to ride off that home crowd. I think Baron Morton's going to have a big game once again in a big spot. And I just can't envision an undefeated full season for BYU. I love them. Kalani Sitake, great coach. They're a very, very well put together team. But give me the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Love it. Going to be fired up, of course, for college game day in the morning and then the game as well. Who are you taking?
Hey, Cats only got 9 lives, and I think BYU's been on the end of some lucky ball games, and I think their time's going to come going down to Texas in Lubbock. This one's going to be an exciting one. Could definitely go both ways, but again, I look at the fact that BYU's been in so many close games this season. They've been in some nail biters, and Texas Tech's finally going to catch them. They're going to give them their first L, and that's really going to shake some things up in the Big 12.
For me, I got to honestly just go BYU till proven otherwise. This team has given me no reason to doubt them so far. I did early in the season after they lost their quarterback, Jake Retzloff, but Bear Bachmeier's been better. I think that even if Jake Retzloff was on this team, Bear Bachmeier might still have this job. And so this has overall been a great season for BYU. They've given me no reason to doubt them, and I'm not going to start against Texas Tech. Give me BYU with a huge win on the road. Next up, we're looking at Kansas and Arizona. Arizona fresh off of a win over a team we won't mention. Who do you got?
Well, the stock market in New York isn't doing the greatest right now, guys. But Arizona's stock, in my book, skyrocketed after they came into Folsom Field and just blew away Colorado. We talked all about it earlier. Their offense, I love how explosive they were. Now, is it a question of is CU secondary just really, really bad and Arizona had their way? I mean, that's also
both can be true.
But both can be true. Leo, I like how assertive you were there. Yeah, I appreciate you, dog. Listen, though. You got to feel bad for Jalen Daniels because this guy is still having an incredible season, but this Jayhawks defense is atrocious. They might be just as bad as Colorado's defense, which is why I like the home team in this one. I think it would be a decent, close game. I think Arizona, though, pulls away at the end and wins by 2 scores.
It really has been a one-man team for him. I've talked about it all season, and yeah.
He might still have the best pass rating in the Big 12, too, and their team is still, 3-win team?
Watch some Jalen Daniels film, folks. It'll blow your mind with how he is a one-man team.
I'm just encouraging you now.
Do you think he's going to pull it out against Arizona?
Yeah, no. I kind of took the words right out of my mouth. Kansas, their defense has really struggled this season, and Arizona's offense is clicking. Noah Fafita having a pretty bounce-back year after he struggled without Teodoro McMillan last season. So I think overall, or actually with Teodoro McMillan, just the offense, the new system with the new coach, really struggled. Now without him, has done pretty well, and I think Arizona's going to take it home.
He's spreading the ball around more, too, and that was also seen against Colorado. Who you got?
I'm a big Noah Fafita guy. I mean, I've talked about it on the show, even going back to the early weeks when I was picking Arizona in some of these games, that even though they were losing early on, but they're starting to hit their stride offensively. Again, I talk about these teams that kind of start rising at the right time of the season. Arizona is one of the teams that are doing that. And when you come off an absolute thumping over the Colorado Buffaloes, morale's going to be high. Noah Fafita's feeling like he could hit any pass on the football field right now, and I think that the Arizona Wildcats are going to go and get this W.
Reminder, Fafita, the last Pac-12 freshman of the year in terms of the old Pac-12. And his stock has just continued to rise since then. I'm going to go with Kansas, though. Now, listen, I'm not even going to say because of Jalen Daniels. I'm not even going to say because of Jalen Daniels. I think he's going to do fine, whatever. Arizona hurt my feelings last week, and I don't like it, so I'm going with Kansas. This is
good reason.
This is not analytical at all. I don't want to see Arizona win after what they just did. Next up, though, we are going to get a little more analytical with this one. Iowa State and TCU. Who are you taking, Shane?
Yeah, well, I talked about earlier how I think Iowa State just looks like a broken team right now. I really don't know what happened to the Cyclones since they came over to Folsom Field a few weeks back. And they have a name at their helm in Matt Campbell, who has been all over these different programs' hot boards when it comes to coaching searches. Is he distracted by those names of programs? I think that could be a very real possibility, right? You're talking about the likes of Auburn, Arkansas, Penn State, Florida, LSU. He's a contender for all of those jobs because of the work he's done in Ames. And I think that the Horned Frogs have looked good recently against Baylor. They beat the West Virginia team we talked about earlier. And that continues here. They're at home. They haven't lost there this season. I like TCU by a touchdown.
He's got to focus in, too, because teams aren't going to hire you if you're losing 5 straight games.
It seems to be a theme. Everyone who's on these hot boards is losing, except for Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, it feels like Iowa State's kind of due. You don't feel like with how they started the season that this should be a team that almost loses out the season, goes on a 5-game losing streak. But still, I like what TCU is doing right now this season. Josh Hoover has been, clicking, been as advertised. Give me TCU.
Yeah, absolutely, and so I got to see the pleasure of seeing him play football in person, and that was an incredible showing from him. He is a heck of a quarterback, and TCU rallies around him. Do you think it's enough for them to get the win?
I mean, being at home definitely makes a difference, Liam Howard. This TCU team's much better when they are, have that home field advantage to their name. But Harrison, you kind of touched on it. I just think Iowa State's due. There is no way this team's going to start 5-0 and turn around and flip and do the absolute opposite. I just don't see it happening. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to find themselves bowl eligible after this one.
I'm going to take Iowa State as well, and I think it's going to come on account of one aspect of their game flipping the script, and that's the run game. They got both their running backs healthy, and they're facing TCU, who does not have a good run defense, and that was even seen a little bit against Colorado. And at times, Caden Salter with one particular run, if you know which one I'm talking about, where he diced that defense up, and I think that they're going to struggle mightily with that two-headed monster there.
Yeah, I think the one blemish on TCU's schedule is that Kansas State game. And Kansas State, very run-heavy. Avery Johnson, dual-threat quarterback. Dylan Edwards as well. So I see that point there.
Absolutely, and they ran all over him in that game. That was quite simply how they got that taken care of. So I think that Iowa State is going to do the exact same thing, and they are going to take down TCU this weekend. But that moves us to our feature game. Colorado heading to take on West Virginia in the Toilet Bowl. Who do you got, Shane?
Well, I'll tell you whose not feature game it is, and that's the Big 12 Conference, right? I mean, this might be the worst game on the slate as appropriated by the 10 a.m., 12 a.m. TNT treatment. I digress. Listen, guys, after talking about the disillusion, the diabolical nature of this team recently, been outscored by 50 points, whatnot in the past 2 games, all of that, right? You can't, in my right mind, tell me that Colorado can win a football game right now. Again, I have to see it to believe it. Now, I will say, I think Juju will give them a little bit of a spark. I'm hoping for their sake that it will be a somewhat competitive game because these blowouts are just sucking all the air out of the fans, the team, the coaches. West Virginia, they're playing much better ball than they were a couple weeks ago, guys. They're at home. I think they continue Colorado's purgatory end to the season. Mountaineers by 2 touchdowns, maybe even by 1 million.
Oh.
Well, Colorado blowouts are certainly getting hard to watch as journalists and hard to do our jobs. So for our sake as well, I hope for a close game. Harrison, do you think we're going to get that?
I think we will get a close game. I thought really long and hard about who will win. As much as I've ripped CU today, I almost picked them. But right now, with just how they're looking, I got to go with West Virginia. I can't believe I'm saying that at this point in the season. I don't think the road environment will help. I think starting Julian Lewis as a freshman, his first start, I think he might look okay, but I think we might see those freshman mistakes, those rookie mistakes. And the defense is, they brought in Ray Lewis last week to try to motivate them, and they gave up 52.
And Ray towards them as well.
Yeah, so unless they, like I said, have some kumbaya moment on the flight across the country, I got to go with West Virginia.
I didn't even notice this, Shane, but your score is locked in right there.
Incredibly
West Virginia by 1 million. Great work, Nick Evans. Leo, who are you taking in Morgantown?
As crazy as this might sound, I'm riding high on the true freshman. I think that morale is going to flip the switch. I think whoever Harrison Simeon may be calling the plays for the Colorado Buffaloes this week needs to let them fly, let the ball air out, let Julian Lewis do his thing, and give the fans a full game to see what this kid can do. Don't limit him. Don't dink and dunk. Do not throw bubble screens. Let the ball fly, and Colorado Buffaloes are going to come out and find the victory.
Yeah, he in particular has picked Juju Lewis. Both teams are going to lose, and Juju's going to be on the field by himself at the end of the game. Honestly, if you're a Colorado fan, that might be the best sight of your life at this point. This program is, quite frankly, gentlemen, in shambles. There is nothing more that I think that this team, as it is, can do to change the narrative and really become the team that people gave them a ceiling of at the top of the year. Morgantown has nothing to do on Saturdays but go watch football. There's nothing else there. The fans are going to be showing up, and West Virginia, even though they've had their quarterback questions, they got a freshman now who's looking pretty good. But still, those quarterback questions are there. They're there for Colorado as well. Actually, that's right. They're not anymore. Wait a minute.
The sun is shining.
Who's that on my screen? That's a quarterback. Colorado has a quarterback. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Julian Lewis's time. Welcome to the Julian Lewis era, and it's going to start at 10 a.m. on a Saturday in Morgantown. Give me the Buffs by 1,000,000 over West Virginia. Thank you, folks, for watching SBS Football Live. Hope that those picks don't come back to bite us here on the end this Saturday. That game will take place on TNT, but you've been watching SBS Football Live, and remember, you heard it here first.